20 years, that was how long the letter had waited, hidden beneath dust, forgotten shelves, and broken memories. And yet somehow it still found its way home. The rain fell steadily over the small mountain town of Ashford. At the edge of the town stood an abandoned post office. The building had been closed for years. Its faded red sign hung crookedly above the door, and weeds pushed through cracks in the stone path. Most people passed by without a second glance. But not Daniel Reed. Daniel was a postman. At 62 years old, he was known by everyone in town. He had spent nearly 4 decades delivering letters, birthday cards, invitations, and news both joyful and heartbreaking. He often joked that he carried pieces of people's lives inside his mailbag. One autumn morning, the town council hired him to help clear out the abandoned post office before it was demolished. Daniel accepted without hesitation. The old building had once been his workplace. Walking through its dusty doorway felt like stepping back in time. Broken cabinets lined the walls, spiderwebs covered forgotten shelves. The smell of old paper filled the air. As he sorted through boxes and scattered documents, he discovered yellowed envelopes, expired forms, and decades-old newspapers. Nothing unusual, until he noticed a small wooden drawer jammed behind a collapsed cabinet. Curious, he pulled it free. Inside lay a single envelope. Unlike the others, it was carefully sealed, protected from dust, almost as if someone had hidden it deliberately. Daniel wiped the dirt away. His eyes froze on the date. October 12, 2006, 20 years ago. The envelope was addressed to Emily Carter, 17 Willow Lane, Ashford. The sender was listed as Michael Turner. Daniel felt a strange chill. He remembered those names. Everyone in Ashford did. Emily Carter and Michael Turner, the couple who had once seemed destined to spend their lives together, until Michael disappeared from town without explanation. People whispered different stories. Some said he abandoned her. Others claimed they had a terrible argument. No one knew the truth. All anyone remembered was that Emily never married. And Michael was never seen again. Daniel stared at the envelope. A letter from Michael, never delivered. He slipped it carefully into his satchel. For the rest of the day, he couldn't stop thinking about it. That night, curiosity won. He searched old town records. What he discovered made his heart sink. Michael Turner had died 2 months after mailing the letter, a car accident. He had been only 26 years old. Daniel sat silently at his kitchen table. The envelope suddenly felt heavier. This wasn't just a lost letter. It was Michael's final message, one Emily had never received. The next morning, Daniel walked to Willow Lane. House number 17 stood exactly where it always had. White fence, blue shutters, rose bushes lining the garden. Time had touched the house gently. A woman in her mid-40s opened the door. There were a few silver strands in her hair, and sadness still lingered in her eyes. "Emily, can I help you?" she asked softly. Daniel swallowed. "I found something that belongs to you." He handed her the envelope. The moment she saw the handwriting, her expression changed. Color drained from her face. Her trembling fingers touched Michael's name. For several seconds she couldn't speak. "It's impossible," she whispered. Daniel explained everything. The abandoned post office, the hidden drawer, the undelivered letter. Emily listened silently. Tears filled her eyes before she had even opened it. Finally, she invited him inside. They sat across from each other at a small wooden table. Slowly, carefully, Emily broke the seal. Inside was a single folded page. Her hands shook as she began to read. And then she cried, not quietly, not politely, but with the grief of someone carrying 20 years of unanswered questions. Daniel waited. Minutes passed before she could speak. Finally, she handed him the letter. "Read it," she said. "I think someone should know." Daniel hesitated. Then he unfolded the page. The letter read, "My dearest Emily, if you're reading this, then I finally found the courage to tell you the truth. When the doctor gave me the diagnosis 3 months ago, I felt my entire world collapse. They say the disease is aggressive. Maybe I have years, maybe I don't. But I couldn't bear the thought of watching you suffer beside me, so I made the worst decision of my life. I pushed you away. I acted cold. I made you hate me. Because I thought losing me now would hurt less than losing me later. But every day since then has felt like punishment. Emily, I never stopped loving you, not for a single moment. If you can forgive me, meet me at our lake on November 1st at sunset. If you don't come, I'll understand. but I had to tell you the truth. You deserved that much. Forever yours, Michael. Daniel lowered the letter. Silence filled the room. Outside, rain tapped gently against the windows. Emily stared into the distance. He waited for me, she whispered. Never knew. Tears slid down her cheek. I thought he stopped loving me. A week later, Emily asked Daniel for a favor. She wanted to visit the lake where Michael had waited. Daniel drove her there. The path wound through tall pine trees glowing gold beneath the autumn sun. Eventually, they reached the water. The lake was beautiful, quiet, timeless. Emily walked slowly to the old wooden dock. There, she sat alone. Daniel remained at a respectful distance. For nearly an hour, she gazed across the water, sometimes smiling, sometimes crying, sometimes simply silent. When she finally stood, she seemed lighter, as though a burden carried for 20 years had finally loosened. She placed the letter beneath a small stone near the dock, then whispered something only the wind could hear, and walked away. Months later, Emily passed away peacefully in her sleep at the age of 44. The news shocked the entire town. She had not been sick. She had shown no signs of illness. Just days before, she had been seen tending to her roses and smiling more than anyone had seen her smile in years. No one could explain what had happened. Soon, whispers spread through Ashford. Some said her heart had simply given out after carrying 20 years of grief. Others believed the letter had brought her a kind of peace she had been searching for all her life. Maybe she finally got the answer she had been waiting for, one neighbor quietly said. No doctor could explain her death. No one knew the truth, but those who knew Emily best believed something else. They believed she hadn't died of sadness. She had finally been freed from it. Some days later, Daniel met her lawyer. The lawyer handed him a small envelope. It's from Emily. For me, she left instructions. Daniel opened it after returning home. Inside was a note. It read, Dear Daniel, for 20 years I believed my story ended with abandonment. Because of you, I learned it ended with love. You delivered more than a letter, you delivered peace. Thank you. And if there is a place beyond this life, I hope Michael and I finally had our sunset at the lake. With gratitude, Emily. Daniel read the note twice, then placed it beside Michael's letter. Outside, the evening sun dipped below the mountains. And somewhere beyond the fading light, perhaps two people who had lost 20 years had finally found each other again.